All right. This is the first real edition of the interview series on Savant Guarde Records YouTube page here. So we've got a guest here from England who's actually lived in New York City for how many years?
Since 89.
Since 1989. That's a long time. So you're a New Yorker now. We were New Yorkers together. I guess you're not technically a New Yorker if you're not from there, but I spent about 13, 14 years there. You've been in there since 1989. We both love that place. I'd go back in a heartbeat, but my home is now in Cape Cod, where I have my label headquarters. And of course, I've been wanting to get Gas on here for a while. We've been meaning to release an album that was shelved in 1980 and
1981.
1981, and it's one of the best rock and roll.
It was supposed to come out in February 81.
Okay, yeah, it's one of the best albums I've ever heard. You can hear it. It came out on a couple 12-inch, 7 inches, maybe some compilation.
No, I got that wrong. It was supposed to come out in 82.
82. Okay, so I got my years off.
Yeah, like we recorded it in 80, and we signed a deal in the summer of 81, and then they put Criminal World out as a single, and then the second single was going to come out in January. That was made in Japan, and the album was supposed to come out in February, and we got dropped in Christmas week. Thanks, Ireland.
That's definitely a tragedy. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the band is Lightning Raiders. As far as, the history of the group, could you say when it was established? Do you have the exact information timeline, or because you joined for the LP and, the classic lineup that we all know? Is that...
Yeah, I think they'd been together. I joined in 1980. I think they'd been together 5 or 6 years before I joined with various lineups.
Right. So what my understanding was that the band came together from the ashes of a Twink and the Fairies group that backed him. And then he got together with some other Pink Fairies member, and they called it the Lightning Raiders, or maybe the Lightning Raiders existed before that. But my understanding is the proto Lightning Raiders was the backing band for this. Twink Do It 77.
Yeah, I think they've been together longer. I think they were together before that.
Oh, okay. Well, I know,
but I don't know.
I know Johnny plays on this, but we need to figure all that stuff out. But we're concentrating on your era in the band that played the festivals, the band that was signed, the band that had the sound. When did you first meet Johnny Hodge?
I met him in 1971 in England.
In Ladbroke Grove?
No, I met him in Bath in England.
Bath.
A town called Bath.
Right.
Yeah. And then he came to Hereford later on that summer. And we went busking in the town. He was on guitar and I was playing a snare drum with my hands.
Great. It's like Tyrannosaurus Rex.
And then we went down we hitched to his house in Yeovil in Somerset. And then we went to they were setting up the second Glastonbury Festival. And I stayed there for a few days, but then I went back to Hereford. He stayed on, and they like building the site, the famous Glastonbury site with the pyramid and that.
That's incredible. So do you know how, when you joined the band, did you join it at the same time as the other guys, or was that lineup established?
No, they've got When I joined, there was John, Sandy, and George Butler, the drummer. And I was crashing at the manager's place, Gordon Hale. And I'd just done some recording with a French band with me drumming, and I ended up being the lead singer. And I was playing in the tapes, and he liked it. And he said, "Do you play guitar?" And I said, "I can a bit, but I can a bit, but I'm not good enough to play on stage," which I wasn't at the time. And he asked me this a few times. "Are you sure you can't play guitar?" I said, "No, man, I'm not." I wasn't going to like bullshit him. I wasn't competent enough to go out and do it. And but he thought I had the makings of being the front man. And I knew John and Sandy and George already, And but he told them that they should get me as the lead singer. And so they did. And then we found Bruce Irving, the Tyler Gang, on second lead guitar. And we were born the new Lightning Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, what a great lineup. I just feel like you guys got somehow exposed into the wrong genre, because people say, "Oh, Lightning Raiders, like they were in NWOBHM, a new wave of British heavy metal band," but they're the furthest thing in my estimation. You guys are a pub rock band with roots in proto punk, and we're basically established. You guys should have dominated that field. In 1980, what was the scene like? Was it new wave of British heavy metal everywhere? Was punk on the decline? Do you remember why the band was fit and slotted into that?
I think that the press did that.
It was the press.
Yeah, we got lumped into being a new wave of British heavy metal, but we weren't a heavy metal band. We were a rock and roll band, with a punk edge.
Right. That's what I mean, there wasn't anybody with particularly long hair in the band. There wasn't. It's just strange how things work out. I mean, yeah, you played with Motorhead, but you guys probably would have, done better with I don't know what would have been a scene happening in England, like what other bands were performing at the time that you recall. Who did you play with?
Well, we could have gone out with Thin Lizzy,
Yeah,
we'd have been compatible with Thin Lizzy because they had the similar format, two great lead guitar players,
Yeah. So after the initial meeting, how long did it take before you guys had a record contract, or was the contract already in place?
No, we started rehearsing. Once I got in the band, Gordon booked block time, like 5 days a week. I think 5 or 6 days a week in Easy Hire, like a professional rehearsal space in North London. And we went in there I think 6 days a week, block booked in the afternoons. And I learnt the songs. And then we went into Gateway Studios in South London and recorded the backing tracks.
Give me 1 second.
And we didn't get a deal. So that was in September, October of 1980. We didn't get the deal till July of 81 with Island. We never really ran into any rock stars. Well, it was mainly our mates like Phil Lynott and Lemmy, and
those
Phil was
rock
my
stars,
mate, Lemmy
right?
was my.
Those are the biggest names there are.
We were mates. There was a place called the Funny Farm, which was an after-hours drinking club, and everybody would go there after the clubs closed.
Is that the Motorhead song? Back at the Funny
Back
Farm?
at the Funny Farm, yeah.
I always wondered what that was about.
Yeah, and John and I, we were good mates. After he left the band, I still used to go and hang out with him and play with him, and we did some. We had the Federation of Real Rockers.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? Some of the golden, what was he a member of the Golden Dawn? What was his identification in that sphere of dark?
Well, he was into black magic.
Right. I remember that. He was showing me some sigils and pyramids. That's where I got the logo for the record label, was his Freedom Through Music sigil. I wanted to use that. I altered it just a little bit, but I wanted it to be in memory of him. You know, that's why it's so important to put out this album for me, because, you know, I didn't know him for very long, but he had a very important role in shaping my outlook on life, and some of the black magic, I guess we'd say, you know, some of that, you know, rubbed off on me in a way that gave me another look at life, you know, and it helped me take certain things more seriously. And it's wondering, you know, like the Federation of Real Rockers, was that a group?
Yeah, it was. It was like a loose lineup. It was him and me, and we had various other people who would sit in with us. We did a few gigs.
It was like a pickup band, you know, you play at pubs and stuff, or?
Yeah, and we played Dingwalls, which was a club. Yeah, like Johnny was temperamental. Like he shouldn't have left the Lightning Raiders, you know.
No.
Him and the manager clashed, you know, and
what happened?
You know,
what happened with the clash? I mean, was it, you know, just conflict of interest over finances? I mean, was he?
Yeah, I mean, see, I lived with Gordon, and I got on all right with Gordon. You know, John and him clashed. He believed in John. You know, Gordon loved the Lightning Raiders. That record wouldn't exist without him. You know, but they didn't get on too well. They clashed, clash of ego, maybe. And I was in the middle of it all, you know, and I was friends with both.
What can you say about that festival you guys played with Saxon, and who else is Motorhead headlining? There was a couple other bands.
It wasn't a festival. It was just a one-day event at Hackney Speedway, a dog racing track in North London. Yeah, it was crazy sound. The sound was bouncing back at us. It was a Hells Angels event.
Was there any recording of the concert? Did it get? There's photos.
Well, the Angels videoed it, but I'd never seen the video.
Be great to see some of that.
I'd love to.
Now, Tony has a photo of Johnny playing with Mark Bolan, and I think Steve Jones. Is it Paul
and Jerry Nolan, isn't it?
Oh, Jerry Nolan, yeah. I've seen that picture.
That was at the Speakeasy.
That's great.
Which was a club in London where all the musicians used to go to back in the day. Yeah, I wasn't at that one.
Were you involved heavily in the lyrics writing of that album?
None at all. They'd all been written by the time I joined.
What about the second?
No, I didn't write anything in the band. I wrote one song that we were doing live that might have gone on the album called Misfits. But no, I didn't write anything on the albums.
Huh. Well, it definitely sounds like some things remind me. Did it shape your future writing? Some of the lyrics remind me of some of the lyrics from. There's some isms. You put your own stamp on those songs. I think you own them.
Oh yeah, I definitely did, but I didn't write them. But I changed the words here and there, you know. But not maybe one word. I mean, I basically stuck to the script, so to speak. But
So what do you have?
yeah, John was a good songwriter. He definitely inspired me to write.
What would you guys do basically to get warmed up? Would it just be you and him over a bottle of Jack Daniels, or Glenfiddich, or whatever you were drinking?
Well, we didn't write together. That's what I mean. He'd just like he'd have the songs written, and then I'd learn them.
Okay. So he was sort of a loner, and he'd come in with the song.
Yeah, the whole band would
just...
he'd come in with the songs, and the band would learn them. Because the FRR was a mixture of originals and covers. So yeah, I mean, I was on some of those songs. I was there. He'd be showing me them, but in the Raiders, yeah, we'd all just go in the rehearsal room, and then he'd show the songs to the whole band.
So your history had been as a drummer before you joined the band. Had you sung in any other bands prior to that?
Yeah, I'd always done backing vocals.
Okay, because
well, I didn't when I was playing with Johnny Thunders, but when I was playing in the Embryonic Pretenders, I was doing backing vocals.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that. So this would have been about, like, at the time Lightning Raiders was being formed, you were in the Embryonic Pretenders. When exactly was that?
Early, I got back off playing with Johnny from a week stint in Paris, Johnny Thunders. And about a month later, I went in my local pub, and the bartender said that Chryssie Hynde was looking for me. And fate would have it, I'd run into her later on that day, and I started rehearsing with her, rehearsed for about a month, and then just the two of us. And then I went to Hereford, where I come from in England, for Easter, and I ran into Pete Farnan, my old best buddy. And I told him that I was playing with this American chick in London, and she had a deal. And they were great songs. And luck would have it that he was living in London. And I went back to Chryssie and said, I just met my mate. He's a great bass player. And it all worked out until I got fired.
Well,
but they worked out until he got fired and then died.
Definitely, comes full circle. You said you had a nice run-in with her. She always mentions you, which, it's
yeah, I've just done an interview for there's a Pretenders documentary going to be coming out, and I went into Quad Studios in Times Square, and I did an interview. It's just going to be a audio interview, not visual.
Right.
So I just did that. I just signed the waiver for it to go out.
That's great. Are there any other groups you helped establish? Do you remember being around? Was there another act that you were in the early stages of development?
Well, I auditioned for the London SS, which had Brian James,
right,
Tony James, and Mick Jones.
Great.
Who turned into Generation X,
Wow.
Clash, and The Damned.
Well, you're definitely prolific. You have your health, you've got the memories, and you've got the legacy. It's impressive. Were there any other recordings from the Pretenders embryonic stage? Were there any demos that you did with them?
No, there might have been some cassettes, but I don't know.
You're basically the Pete Best of the Pretenders punk world.
Yeah, but I never got to do any gigs. At least he gigged with them.
Oh,
with
right.
With the Beatles. I just rehearsed with them. I rehearsed most of those songs on the first album.
It's great. What led to the formation of the Manish Boys? Was that John Plain restarting? Your meeting will end in 10 minutes. Oh my goodness. All right. So
No, the Manish Boys was after the Raiders broke up. I bought a guitar. I bought a guitar, and I'd been like playing on one song in the set. So when the Raiders broke up, I spent about a year, 10 months or so, just practicing guitar and writing, and then I put the Manish Boys together, and with Brady from the Hollywood Brats on guitar, and Robbie on drums, and we had this other bass player guy that we did one gig with. Then we got a mate of Robbie, the drummers. We got his mate in on bass, and we played with Brady for about a year, and then he left, and that's when John joined, John Plain.
okay, so it didn't have any, it wasn't
Nothing to
like,
do with the boys.
okay, I always thought it was like his band after the Boys. He's like, oh, we'll call it the Manish Boys because it has a different lineup, but it just completely
No,
separate.
he joined. I asked him to join the Managed Boys.
So it's kind of like Twink being in a band called the Fairies and then later joining the Pink Fairies with no relation whatsoever to them. It's funny how that works. Maybe it's just some sort of synchronicity, you know. John Hodge could explain it. um but that record, Penetration Sensation, I have it in the back.
Yeah, it's a good record.
Is there anything else? I feel like there must have been something further. You know, that's it. That's a gem. Was there a full album?
No, those the two of those songs, because side one was studio, and side two was a live gig in Geneva.
Right.
And the second track, We Gotta Right, that was done just when John had joined, because Brady suddenly said he was leaving, and we were going to record down at Woodside, which is part of Rockfield Studios in Wales. And Brady said, "Oh, I'll come and do the recording." And I said, "I don't want you to come and record with us if you're leaving the band. You know, fuck that. You know, why the fuck are you leaving? You know."
Yeah,
So
that does
I
work.
asked John if he'd do it, because he was in a band called the Dirty Strangers,
Okay.
who they used to ask me to get up and sing a song with them occasionally. And so I knew John and liked the way he played. So I said, "Will you come and do some recording with us?" And like, it was amazing. I was like, I think we were up all night the night before we went down, with me showing him songs, and we went in and we recorded. And then in the middle of that, we got a gig with Robert Plant in Monmouth. It was like a one-day festival thing with the Robert Plant Band and some others. So we packed all the gear up, went and did the gig, and then went back to recording. And we did that song "We Got It Right," which is on the record.
Do you think Robert Plant picked you because he thought you were like a good American blues outfit?
He didn't pick us. We got picked. I think our manager organized it.
That's great.
He just happened to be on the bill because he lived in the area.
So
But he actually said, well, there was a video of it, and our manager said that she was at this viewing, and they were watching us, and Robert Plant said that we had an energy they'd lost, which I took as a compliment.
That's nice. Yeah, I've been a fan of that band, you know, as long as I've been a fan of the Lightning Raiders, you know. So it's just, you know, it's a privilege to be able to put something out, you know, that's a like a it's like a time capsule, you know, and we're gonna be true to the music, you know, and true to the sound, and it's something that this label is going to be doing on top of recording new music for legacy artists and people from that era, you know, when music, I feel like, was recorded differently. The people live different lives. There's a totally different world, you know, and I'd like to capture some of that. So we're looking forward to working with you and getting that accomplished. As
Yeah,
far as you know, your friendship with Lemmy is concerned, you know, that must have been a boost for the reputation of the Lightning Raiders,
well,
especially.
he was a fan of the Raiders before I joined. Like they'd opened up for the lineup before me had played quite a few shows with Motorhead, so he was a fan already. But he said that when I joined them, that it really cemented it, and he used to come to all our London shows.
I mean, that first single is quite good, right? But what you have is a good single, but then when you join, you have an excellent band, you know. So it's evident, you know. Lemmy's got, I think, a reputation for having a good taste. Um, so
I tell you how I met him,
yeah, yeah. That's
and how we got to sort of be really close was we were rehearsing. Motorhead and my band, the Cyanide Sweeties, rehearsed in the same rehearsal space, and it was in the middle of the night in the summer of '76. It was a really hot summer in England, and we were all speeding, you know, and our bass player didn't show up, and Lemmy was hanging out, and he went, "Oh!" And in those days, everybody had a cage. Like now, you go in a studio, all the gear's there, you know. But then bands would have a cage and lock their equipment up, and so Lemmy said, "Oh, I'll get my bass," and he sat in with us. Up until then, I'd been an acquaintance of his, just seeing him around and chat. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah. And then he sat in, and I was drumming, he was playing bass, and we locked in. It was like a lot of fun. And at the end, like he gave me his phone number, and we lived in the same neighborhood and drank in the same pubs. And then like we'd meet up, he'd invite me back to his place, and we just became mates. He was like my brother, my older brother from another mother, you know. I love him. I miss him. I think of him every day, you know.